morning, Penryn family. We are having our sideline chat number 6 today. We have the privilege of having Louise de Jager here. She is an ex-national player, Penryn alumni, and the current SA ladies mental strength coach. Hi, Louise.
Hi, Jacques. Thanks very much for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for making time to have this chat with us. We know that you're always keen to spend time with Penryn. So it's awesome for us to have you as a person to go to.
Yeah, Jacques, it's always nice coming back to the Penryn family and adding value wherever we can.
Awesome. So let's jump into it. So tell me, who have you been sharing your lockdown with, and how has it been thus far?
So I spent my lockdown with my hubby and my 4 wild animals that run around the house. And it was, to be honest, it was actually quite enjoyable. I think I don't generally mind being at home and just, chilling and working from home. So I actually quite enjoyed the slow down in pace of normal life. And I think one of the most challenging parts was finding a long enough running route around my garden, because my dogs would kind of attack me around every corner and scare the heck out of me. So, but no, I've thoroughly enjoyed the lockdown. I think it would be nice to return to some form of normal, but it has been quite an enjoyable time.
Yeah, I think with us in the Lowveld here, like so many people have some have farms, and it's not really fair because that's not lockdown. And then some of us are in a flat and others in a house. So that's quite interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think the farm, definitely all the people who have farms are winning at this lockdown thing. There's no doubt about that.
Privileged, yeah. Louise, can you maybe give us a brief history of your hockey journey? Maybe from prep school. How did you start with hockey? Was it your first choice? And then the teams that you played for at school and then provincially as well?
Sure. So I started playing hockey at the age of 5. I joined a club. Yeah, I didn't even know how my parents got involved. But anyway, so I joined a club at the age of 5 and I just absolutely loved it. From the first time I ran around a freezing cold, obviously it was grass back then. And then all the way through school, so I played, my first IPT would have been an under 13 IPT, which I actually played. I got selected for the team when I was under 12. So
where's that, Lou?
That's for Southerns. That was in Southerns.
Okay.
So then I played Southerns under 13 IPT. We actually played in Pretoria. Yes, I can't remember all these things. But then under 14, there wasn't, I don't even know if there was IPT back then, but then I played under 16. I played Southerns again. So my first year under 16, I played in the C team. Yeah, which was actually quite fun. And then the second year I played in the A team. And then in my under 16 year, I got selected for the under 16 South African team, who played like a little mini fun tournament against Zimbabwe. And then from that, then I went through to Penryn. I only moved to Penryn to the Nelspruit at the end of my grade 10 year. So then I played under 18 Mpumalanga for my under 17 and my under 18 year. And we managed to win the B section, which was pretty exciting back then. Yeah, then I didn't make another national team up until my second year of varsity, when I got selected for the under 21 South African team. And then just a little bit later than that, I got selected for the Junior World Cup team. And we went through to Boston to go play in the Junior World Cup. Yes, I think that was in 2009. And then on my return back to South Africa, I got my call up to the national women's team, and then played about 3.5 years in the national women's team.
Oh, can you tell us a bit maybe about your SA debut? Like how did the call up come? Did you see it coming? And then were you super nervous? Who did you play your first game against? Can you talk us through that, please?
Absolutely. So I had been on a couple of camps. As a lightie on the camps, you get used and abused, which was a lot of fun. So I had been on a couple senior national camps. You get invited
to go to camp.
Yeah, so I had been invited to a couple camps, which was, it was quite exciting. We had a camp down Stellenbosch, and then I think we had one in Bloem, and then also down in Durban. But I didn't get any national caps. So what happens if you start playing the tournament on the Monday against the national team or the international team that's visiting, then you usually get flown home on the Sunday night. So I had quite a few Sunday night trips home, which was fine. When you're young, you have to accept, that you're just there to learn and develop. But then my debut was a complete shock. I had no idea it was coming. So I was just a normal, I think I was at varsity, and I got a phone call saying, hey, we need your passport and your passport number as quickly as possible. And I was like, why? What is going on? They're like, no, you're flying to China tonight. And I was like, oh, that's quite far away. So I literally got a visa within a day, and I flew out to China. So my first debut was against China, which was, the game itself was unbelievable. It was a lot of fun. I think I played all of maybe 3 minutes, which was, that's what you go there to do. So I played about 3 minutes in my first debut, I think. And then, can't remember, it was quite a long time ago. But it was quite an interesting experience because we were in China for about 6 weeks, I think. And China is not my most favorite country. And for the 6 weeks, the only thing I basically remember is eating white rice and watermelon. That's about it. That's all I ate for 6 weeks. But so we played.
Do you still eat that?
Yes, I actually love it. So we played a couple games. I'm not sure how many in total, but we played maybe about 12 to 15 matches against China in that series. And then we flew home. So we stayed in the Olympic Village. It was an unbelievable experience.
And your game time obviously increased with the tournament reaching its end.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an interesting time because I can play pretty much anywhere on the field. So it was interesting because I just became a substitute for whoever needed a rest at the time. So I managed to get quite a bit of experience playing all over the field. So I used to actually play a bit of striker every now and then defender, which was obviously more preferred. But the game time did increase, but it was slow. That's how you start your debut. You start with 3 minutes here, a couple minutes there, and you just kind of learn and grow as you go. We had an incredibly strong team. Not that we don't have one now, but we have a very strong team now too. But that was still in the likes of when Marshall was still captain and Pitty was still playing. So it was, game time was min, yes, and a lot of senior players.
Yes.
So as a youngster, we were really there just to fill in a bit of rest time for the senior players.
All right, and then other sports. Well, was hockey your only sport? Did you do anything else, and how far did you get in it?
So anything that my mom could make time to get me to in a day is what I did. So, at school I did absolutely everything. I did water polo, athletics, gymnastics, tumbling. I played cricket. I got kicked out of the boys' soccer team, so I wasn't allowed to play soccer, which was very upsetting to me. But we played cricket, anything that swimming, squash, tennis, literally anything that I could fit into a day, I would definitely do. And then the sports that I got the furthest with was gymnastics. I got my South African colours, actually ranked 10th in the world at a World Cup when I was 14 years old. And then after that, I left the gymnastics to take up the hockey more seriously. But I also did water polo provincially, athletics provincially. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Misty mentioned javelin.
Yeah, so I was a very big javelin, long jump and hurdles were my 3 favorite athletics events. So I actually went to essays and I was ranked like 3rd in South Africa for quite a few years doing those events.
And tell me, javelin, did that help with your hockey in terms of shoulder strength, or?
I think in terms of rotation strength, definitely. When it came down to the drag flicking and the overheads, I think the rotation, the upper body rotation, it definitely helped a lot with that.
All right, how far can you throw a ball, Lou?
Oh my goodness, I have no idea. But probably, I think probably about a comfortable 40 meters. I think if I dislocated my arm, I'd throw 45 meters, but probably a comfortable 40 meters.
Oh, okay, cool. And then tell me your most memorable moment as a national athlete. Sure, maybe a win or an award, personal performance.
I think probably one of my most memorable kind of moments was when we were at the Junior World Cup in Boston, and in our final game, we played against Lithuania. That was for our ranking points as a junior team, And by some miracle, I'm still not 100% sure to the day how it actually happened, but I managed to score a hat-trick in that game. So 2 drag flicks, and then I had the most amazing goal, which to the day I still don't really know how it happened, but I intercepted a ball on our defending 25 and then ran all the way to the goal box. And then when I got to their goals, I actually tried to reverse stick past the ball to far post. But by some fluke, the ball actually went in the goal. So I scored a reverse stick goal, which was a little bit confusing at the time. But I think that was probably one of my most memorable moments just in terms of national sports.
Oh, awesome. And so you've obviously visited Penryn a few times since you left school. What have you noticed any changes from Penryn from then and now? And then what would that be, good or bad?
I think there's been a lot of change. I mean, I haven't been in school for quite a couple of years, but I remember the first time I came back, I mean, all the buildings, the actual structure of the school had completely changed, which was confusing. But so the structure of the school, obviously you put up an astro, which is beautiful. There's no longer that really nice cabbage patch that we used to play hockey on down at the bottom. I mean, the whole buildings, the school has just grown tremendously in a couple of years. And I think the last time I was there, the thing I was most taken back by was the Wi-Fi hotspots, which I couldn't really believe. That was quite interesting. That's the first time I saw that. But I think generally, if we move away from structure, one of the biggest things that I've noticed and picked up is really just the pride in the school. I think when we were in grade 11 matric, we did have a lot of pride and we had a lot of support. But what I've just noticed is how much more pride there is in the actual school and how much more people want to actually be involved and contribute and learn and grow. I think that's quite a big thing. And then obviously the standard of sport has really kind of plummeted. I mean, not plummeted, has really kind of sailed, which is unbelievable to see. So I think there's been a lot of investment across the board from teachers and coaches and obviously people higher up. And it just looks like the school is actually soaring.
Awesome. And then in terms of gender equality in sport, can you maybe give us your opinion on that? Maybe at Penryn first, and then in schools in general, and then from a national point of view, or how do you see women's sport?
I think this is quite an interesting political question. Thanks, Rob. But awesome. I think it would be tough for me to give an opinion on Penryn. Specifically, also because I haven't been too much involved in terms of the actual structure of sport in the school, but I'll give you kind of my overall opinion on it, which is maybe a safer bet. So do I think that there's equality? Not so much. I do believe that there is a lot of movement and momentum towards bringing about equality, but there's some really big points for me that need to stand out, and that is, number one, are there actually the same opportunities for girls and boys in sport, which there aren't. The second thing is, in terms of the exposure to sport, are girls given the same opportunity to actually be exposed to sport? And then the last one is on options available to girls in sport. So just from what I know is that generally boys have a much bigger kind of options and exposure to sports across the year. Like I just know in a couple schools, like boys are exposed to 12 different sports in a year, whereas girls are only exposed to like maybe 6 different sports. So I think that there's still a lot of like, no, girls shouldn't play rugby and they shouldn't be playing cricket and they shouldn't be playing soccer. There's still quite a bit of that kind of opinion going on. And I think, like I said, I think there is momentum towards equality, but definitely not full equality. And I mean, if we just look at rugby, and I'm sorry, I hate to be the bearer of bad news for rugby, and I hate to talk badly about it, but I think rugby is still the #1 supported sport, obviously at a school level and obviously going up. I mean, if we compared, when we were at university, the rugby boys were getting paid to play every single month at university, at a university level, whereas we paid to play. We had to pay fees to play. We had to pay for our kit. We had to pay for, our tours, our IPTs, which is completely unheard of, like in the rugby kind of segment, just as one example. So I think there's good movement towards it, but I still think we're actually quite far away from what we would deem equality.
So you would give girls more options. I know because a lot of people say that we need more, in order to effect change, one needs more women in management positions in sport, to try and enforce that change.
Absolutely, and also to encourage the participation. I think it's difficult for maybe male coaches and male teachers to be encouraging participation when there isn't female coaches or female teachers that are helping with that. I think also the way in which we approach sports is quite male kind of culturally, in the way that boys don't mind competing, and boys will compete one-on-one from a very young age. They are competitive and competitive in nature. Whereas girls are not so much. The competitiveness generally kind of only comes at a later stage. Girls want to more participate and have the opportunity for participation in sport. So I don't want to come down to the tennis court and be forced to play in a team, but I won't mind coming down to the tennis court and just playing, if that makes sense. So there's quite a big, I think that the drive is too much, and this is a culture in South Africa, unfortunately, the drive is too much towards competitive sports and competitive sporting environment, compared to just allowing, I think, kids all over, like, just to actually participate in sport and to actually enjoy, like, options of physical activity.
Awesome. I have a few shorter questions for you. It's get to know you better questions. So just a short answer needed, maybe the first one that pops into your head. Let's go with your favorite food.
Is probably chocolate cake or chuckles.
No, favorite hobby?
Probably golf or gardening or playing with my dogs. Yep.
All right, Federer or Nadal?
Federer, definitely.
All right, and since you mentioned soccer, let's go with Nadal. Let's go with Ronaldo or Messi?
Ronaldo.
Ronaldo. All right, your most influential women's athlete?
There's a few. I have a few here. As a youngster growing up, my most influential woman athlete was Marion Jones. Don't go and Google her. She got caught doping a couple of years after she was my favorite athlete.
What's the doc?
Yeah, then in terms of hockey, it's probably like a Marsha Marisha or Pieter Coetzern or Lindsay Carlisle. Definitely growing up, Lindsay was my absolute biggest kind of hero. And then I think maybe in sport in general is probably Caster Semenya. Thoroughly enjoy her.
Okay, cool. Favorite sport other than hockey?
Trail running, for sure.
Okay. Favorite cartoon?
The Simpsons.
Superhero?
Oh, goodness. I don't know. Let's just say the Hulk. It's the only one that comes to mind.
Do you get angry, Lou?
Very angry.
Your most influential coach that you played under, and why?
I think I had a few. The first was Pieter Coetzern. She coached me my first year of at university, and she was just an incredible human motivator. She had a couple one-on-ones with me and just really steered me in the right direction in terms of my hockey career. And then I think secondly to that is probably Rob van Ginkel. I think he coaches at such a high intensity. So he took my game to really an elevated level when he started coaching.
You're currently working with him as well?
I do work with him, yes. We actually coincidentally became really good friends after a couple of years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. And then what other question do I have here for you? Did you have a nickname during school?
I had a nickname when I was very young, which is actually quite an embarrassing nickname. So my nickname at hockey was Boykie because I had very short hair and obviously I had quite a strong build, so I definitely did look like a boy. So that was quite embarrassing. But I think most of my nickname has just been Lou, which is obviously quite boring. I think that the coaching quality has definitely gone up in terms of the coaching quality, but also in terms of the depth in coaching. I think back then we maybe had one good coach for the entire school, whereas now I think that there's a lot more passionate and driven coaches all round. So I think that there's a very nice team of hockey coaches who are actually really passionate and really, I think it's important because they want to be really good. So I think that the level of coaching has definitely gone up quite a bit since I was there. It is an incredibly tough. It really is incredibly tough. I don't think for one moment people understand how difficult it is for an athlete who has now been literally building up to peak for the past 4 years to go to an Olympics, also because we didn't go to the last Olympics. So this Olympic means a lot to us. But I mean, we asked the girls a couple months ago to completely basically sacrifice, 8 months of their lives to build up to the Olympics. And a lot of them made incredibly big life decisions. We have some that study overseas in the United States who canceled their studies for the year to stay in South Africa to build up to the Olympics. So I think that there's a lot that they need to deal with and to take in, because some people are like, but it's just in a year's time. No, it's a complete change of a tournament. It's not just now postponed by a year. It's now a completely different build-up that we require. And I think that there's positives and negatives to it, but it is a lot more difficult physically, emotionally, kind of in all ways for the athletes and for the girls than what you would actually assume it is. No, definitely not. I don't think the selection criteria cannot change in terms of you need to still be fit. It doesn't matter. You're still a professional athlete. I think that's where the tough thing is that you're still a professional athlete and there's still certain things that are expected of you. Whether or not we're in a coronavirus kind of pandemic and we're trying to fight that, when we have selection camp, which will probably be towards the end of the year, corona allowing, the standard that is expected of them is still exactly the same standard that would be expected of them in normal situation, which is tough, but they are also professional athletes and they know they have the options and they have the support to make that happen. I think that it is now more than ever more important for kids to be active. I think in terms of the uncertainty and the chaos that exists around us, I believe that being active is one thing that we can control. Not only that, but it's also, the proven benefits on health physically and mentally of physical activity is definitely the kind of stuff we need right now. So I think for physical activity to be put onto the back burner just because, now academics needs to take preference, I don't believe that that is a very good choice or decision to make for kids. I think the way in which it's managed must be is quite sensitive in terms of, do we make these things compulsory or do we make them a lot more fun and engaging for the kids? And I think the focus maybe needs to change, but there needs to be actually, in my opinion, a very big increase in physical activity over the next couple of months. It is the only way we deal with stress effectively as humans, is to actually get active. And I think as teachers and as coaches, we need to be really creative about how we actually get that going, because I don't think it's not about pressure. It's not about performance, the things that we used to focus on, but it now needs to be about engagement, interaction, and fun. A really big thing from me from Penryn, and it's something that I've always appreciated, is that I left Penryn a much better kind of well-rounded human compared to what I came into Penryn. So the teaching that I got at Penryn was at an absolute elite level. I will never forget when I came to Penryn, they put me in the top maths class, which I wasn't 100% sure why. And my first test, I got 27%. And I thought, oh my goodness, these people are going to tell me to leave the school because I'm not going to survive. But the maths teacher took me aside, and in terms of her ability to teach me, I literally got a distinction for maths in matric. And it was just through having a better teacher and a teacher of really high quality that actually took the time to nurture me as an individual. And I think that is something that Penryn definitely created in me. I think that, and then also we talk about it in psychology terms, in terms of psychosocial development, which really, I think I went from being an average human to being a really cool human by the time I left Penryn, because I had just developed characteristics which at the time didn't seem very important to me. But I've seen now later on in my years how important the development of like my personality and other characteristics and kind of developing friendships and those kinds of things are so much more important. And they've paid off, yes, over the last 10 years more than I could have ever believed. Absolutely. I think one thing that I always remind athletes that I work with, or any sports kids that I work with who are super talented, is that school doesn't mean anything. And I truly mean that. When you go to university and further, that's where your talent actually becomes something. So I think if you have to work hard at school because you want to grow your base as a sportsman or a sportswoman. So you want to nurture and develop your talent. But if you haven't performed to your best ability, or you haven't got the recognition that you think that you deserve, or you haven't made the teams that you think that you should have at a school level, I want to say don't worry about that, because your actual sport performance only generally happens later in life. I mean, I know how many athletes that were, if I can say it not in a mean way, but somewhat useless at school, but their determination and their hard work and their commitment paid off later on in life. And now they have 150, 200 caps for South Africa. So that's not about always making the A team or making the first team or making a provincial team at a school level. I definitely would say be more patient and give yourself the time to actually develop. And then a big thing that I've learned over the last couple of years, even working with the national team, is that talent only gets you so far. And yes, you do need a degree of talent, but I guarantee you that hard work, commitment, and discipline, they take you a lot further than what talent ever will. And what I've noticed is that mostly I call them over-talented humans at school who just kind of sail through and into teams, they generally don't progress much further after school because they haven't learned the basics of hard work, commitment, and discipline. So I would really encourage any athlete at a school level who still wants to represent their country to never give up. You can't give up because you don't know what's waiting for you, and then stay committed and disciplined, because if you can live the lifestyle of a professional athlete, then you can be a professional athlete. Absolutely. I think one of the big things that always stuck by me and that I try to remember when I'm coaching too is it's a little saying, I'm not sure who by, but it says, people will forget what you've said, people will forget what you've done, but people will never forget how you make them feel. So a lot of my coaching philosophy is around making players feel valued as individuals, as actual humans. And I think that if you get that right in terms of taking the time out to, if they need a special kind of conversation or a one-on-one conversation to actually make them feel valued, then I believe you're going to get the best out of any athlete. If they feel valued and they actually enjoy what they're doing, then you'll get some good work out of them for many, many, many years. Perfect. Thank you so much, Jacques. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me.